Hello again, everybody. My name is Paul Pratt, and you are listening to the Wrestling Inc. exclusive interview with Double J, Jeff Jarrett, who will be an ambassador for and the special guest referee at the upcoming NWA Crockett Cup pay-per-view. It's emanating from Nashville, Tennessee, March 19th and 20th, this very weekend. But Jeff, you are specifically going to be key component of the big World Championship title match between Matt Cardona, the current and reigning NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and two-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis on Sunday the 20th. So talk to us a little bit about that.
You know, Paul, it's kind of surreal. In 2022, the Crockett Cup being held literally in my hometown, which is, you know, in a way, it's just sort of the stars have aligned. And David Crockett being a part of it and all the lineage and history of the Crockett Cup. But you know, most importantly for me, I never thought in 2022 that I would literally be right in the middle of the NWA World Title match with two guys that I have actually, you know, long-standing relationships. I've got a business relationship currently with the champion Mark Cardona in the, you know, action figure world. And you know, me and Nick Aldis, we go back literally since he came into the United States. So lots of history between all of us, and I really am looking forward to this Sunday.
I'm going to delve into those relationships in a bit, but I want to first talk about what your perception as a six-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion is of the resurgence of what National Wrestling Alliance under William Patrick Corgan has done and become.
It goes without saying what my mindset is on the NWA. In 2002, when I launched TNA, it was at the very top, if not the top of my priority, to create an alliance with those guys. And, you know, at that time, it was a different business model. In the NWA, it's, you know, those days it still had 12 to 15 regional promoters. But it had obviously fallen on hard times. You know, the heyday back in the day, we'll call it 70s, and even to the early 80s. The NWA, you know, the longest lineage of any championships in the world and everything that goes with that. So it's had, like any form of business, it's had its ups and downs. I'd say, you know, since about 08, 09, it had, you know, had somewhat of a difficult time. But, you know, with Billy and just the entire team at the NWA, they have methodically, you know, put the pieces of the puzzle together. And just as you referenced, a resurgence of that. And I got to tip my cap in so many ways to Nick Aldis and just what he's meant, not just to the title, but to the brand as well.
Nick Aldis has stated that his purpose in this is he's called Matt Cardona a clown outright, and says that Matt is disrespecting the lineage and the heritage of the NWA World's title. But there would be people who argue that Matt represents wrestling in the now, his social media following, his popularity, his world travels. Where do you find the balance between those two perceptions?
Well, you know, this is the proverbial talking out two sides of your mouth. I got to agree with both lines of thinking. And all kidding aside is, if you drew up a wrestler, and I said this in the 10 Pounds of Gold video segment.
I saw that.
I said that if you drew up a wrestler in 2022 that identifies and emulates the NWA World Champion, Matt Cardona's, in my opinion, the last on that list. And I say that because he doesn't probably like when I say this, but look, he's the product of the WWE system. He was essentially born into it, not just as a wrestler, but as a fan. He grew up on the WWE, a WWE fanboy from a young age. And I'm saying not good or bad. I'm just stating the facts. And then he had a very, very long run with those guys. And he likes to refer to it as his, the WWE was his developmental time. But, you know, I think he says that tongue in cheek. But in reality, the success he's shown since he left theirs, his track record speaks for itself. He is very engaged, as you said, with social media, and he holds multiple titles around the globe, and he's very engaged in what he does, and he's taken his career, which I like the most is he's taken the bull by the horns and really, really forged his own destiny, and I've got a ton of respect for that. Nick Aldis, on the other hand, is got the swagger, got the championship, carries the broad shoulders, carries himself like a champion. But he did that from the day his feet touched U.S. soil. So I'll use Nick's words. If he calls himself a clown, Matt's a clown in his own way. And so far, over the last 18 months, he's been a very successful clown.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment because, again, I think it's a very challenging situation to talk about because we have the tried and true people who love the National Wrestling Alliance and its rich history. But I could argue as well that in many ways, I feel that Matt Cardona exemplifies what NWA world champions of old were like. He's a journeyman. He's gone from company to company now since his days in WWE, WWF, and really proven himself. He is former Game Changer professional wrestling world champion. He's the Impact Digital champion. So he's found his own territory system, and now he's made his way to the National Wrestling Alliance to win Sweet Charlotte and the biggest prize in the game.
I agree. And the thing about Matt that, as a kid, he was an action figure junkie. Well, as an adult, he's an action figure junkie. But the lenses that is viewed nowadays, he's an incredible businessman. And so whether it's an action figure, a collection of action figure, and his collection is kind of incredible, or the collection of belts he's put together, his track record, like I said, speaks for itself. So the traditionalist, as I guess you could frame him at with NWA, and at times I'll put my hat on as a traditionalist with NWA, going back to the Flairs and the Funks and the Briscoes and Dusty and all those names. But, it's 2022, and at the end of the day, NWA is a brand that has found an incredible home on Fight, and people will be able to tune in this Saturday and Sunday to watch it on Fight. And candidly, the Crockett Cup is taken to another level this year just because of Matt Cardona and Fight and how the NWA's put this together with all the tag teams across the globe. It's really an exciting time to be a part of it.
I agree with you, and we're going to definitely delve into the kind of history of the Crockett Cup because even before we get there, Crockett Cup, my favorite all-time NWA event. I'm so excited that I'm going to be there personally, but watching the 10 pounds of gold, the most recent one that brought the champ and the challenger and you as a focal point, because you are the special guest referee, it left me questioning whether you might have, because of these long-standing relationships with both, some dog in this fight, and if you will be able to be objective.
I think objective is very subjective. I said this in the 10 pounds of gold. Sunday morning when I wake up, obviously I'll be dialed in. I've got a lot going on with lots of other projects going on in my world. But, I'll be laser focused on that match. And, as a referee, I'm the third member. And, those two guys are front and center. So the ball is really in the champion's hands. He's the one that should and probably will dictate the pace. And so, I can only do what I can do, and that's be objective with the mindset going in. But we both know when the NWA title's on the line and the egos are on the table, lots and lots of things could happen. So I said it in the 10 pounds of gold. I'm intrigued by the matchup. I'll say that.
This World Championship match being such a focal point of a weekend of tag team wrestling does hearken me back a little bit to the original Crockett Cup in 1986, where there was a legendary match between Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair for the world title, which was also central to that event. It having a world title on the line at an already spectacular event like this, as you mentioned, seems to heighten the excitement, heighten the interest, take it to an all new level.
You know, when you look back over all the big NWA cards, and those are very, very lengthy because you have to break it down into territory by territory. So whether it was in Florida or the Carolinas or Kansas City or St. Louis or, you know, even Texas and California, it just depends. But all the big, big mega cards that the NWA was a part of through the years, the NWA World Title was certainly, if not the main event, a co-main event. And the Crockett Cup in '86 is very reflective of that. So we don't know who's going to actually win the tag team, you know, the Crockett Cup. That's TBD, and we're going to turn in to see that. But we know without question, you know, who's in the world title match, Cardona and Aldis, and we know one of them's walking out a winner. I'm refereeing, so there will be a winner, and so that's kind of a guarantee. And so, you know, with the lineage, like I said, of the NWA and the Crockett Cup and big money matches, Cardona and Aldis is something that I think when folks tune in on Sunday, it's going to be one of those cards where you get resolution, and that, in a lot of ways, is the essence of our industry.
I hope there's resolution. I would not put it past Matt Cardona to have ample things up his cut off sleeves, but
that's what I'm there for.
Let's hope. Now, talking about the Crockett Cup, there is a real crop of talent that's coming to the Crockett Cup this year, including some really high name tag teams, high profile tag teams. We've got, of course, La Rebellion, which is the reigning NWA World Tag Team Champions. I think they're the number 1 seed, but the number 2 seed in this tournament, if I'm not mistaken, are the Briscoe brothers. And talk to me about what it means to the NWA, to the wrestling world, to see somebody as iconic as the Briscoe brothers come into NWA to be part of this.
You know, on my podcast, My World, me and Conrad, my podcast partner, we'll talk from time to time. And a lot of times conversations we have off air are something that I'm like, man, I wish we had been recording, or Conrad will say that. But the Briscoes are a team that I wish I could have had a part in booking and promoting and having them a part of the rosters that I've been a part of. I recently saw them at Game Changer Wrestling, and you know, you don't know how teams will evolve. I truly believe they're better than they've ever been, and so that is hands down who I believe are the favorites, no matter who the champions are, no matter what the win-loss record is going into this. I think the Briscoes are a team that, you know, they're no longer a hidden gem. They've been around a while, but they're at the top of their game, and I see them winning it all.
That's, I mean, that's certainly a quote, and I think that they are just stellar. I was on hand the night that they won the GCW World Tag Team titles. I was on hand the night that they're at the Hammerstein, actually with you, the night that they lost them. You would probably remember me because I was the very statuesque, heavily painted woman backstage. So, you know, I wanted to talk to you. That's a great segue too, because one of the things we started this off talking about a resurgence for the NWA, but I feel in many ways we've seen a bit of a resurgence for Jeff Jarrett. That GCW thing changed the way people saw you leading into that big matchup with Effie. People around the world were talking about Jeff Jarrett with a level of excitement that perhaps they haven't in a few years.
It's interesting. There's an article that came out in today's National Scene. It's a publication that's been around for years and years and years. Obviously, it's now not only print but digital as well. And it's, I don't know, I think this is the People of Nashville issue. And so I'm one of, I think, 10 or 15 or 20 folks. But it's pretty unique, Paul, that in the article, it references heavily the Hammerstein show and Effie and just the whole experience. And so, the Last Outlaw, and I'll give the writer some credit, he coined it, it's a bit of a paradox, me against Effie and my lineage back to, we're talking NWA, but the NWA is the governing body of the territories back in the day. So I'm my lineage back to those days and the Last Outlaw, and they call them ultra violent now, death matches, and at one time they were called hardcore, and then I guess in its early incarnations it was action outside of the ring. But all through the years, things have evolved. But I agree, the Game Changer and the Last Outlaw and Effie and the Night at the Hammerstein was something that a very, very memorable night for this Hall of Famer. That's for sure.
It was. I feel horrible to admit this, but I think on one hand you should hear it. You looked better than I've remembered you looking physically in many years. You walked out and you were absolutely jacked.
Well, I will say this. I got calls dating back to last summer, from not just Game Changer, but from other promotions. And, it goes without saying, my full-time in-ring career is definitely in the rearview mirror. But I told myself that if I'm going to do this and pick a few select matches here and there, and I'm not done with Effie, but a few select matches here and there, I'm going to get in shape, and that's kind of what I put my mind to. So I'm back in the gym and cardio, and I've taken my select in-ring appearances very serious. But I appreciate the compliment, Paul.
It's always a dual-edged sword, right? To say to somebody like, "Man, you look fantastic," but what struck me is the same thing that strikes me every time I see a Billy Gunn or other veteran stars who physically look like they have not missed a step. And whereas people, as we know, as we age, our body changes. So, those are things that are realities, but one would never know that you are a 30 plus year veteran of the sport from your physics.
I appreciate that. But, I think the evolution of not just physical fitness, but you look at a Tom Brady, you look at other athletes in other sports, it's all about diet, it's all about rest, it's all about getting to the gym, training smarter, eating smarter, candidly working smarter. And so I feel very blessed to have the mindset to stay in shape.
Well, hey, if things go well on Sunday for Nick Aldis, he might hook you up with some of those legacy supplements.
You never know. He'll charge me double knowing Nick.
At legacysups.com. But nevertheless, this is something that it's really rewarding, I think, for longtime fans. And this is something I do love about the National Wrestling Alliance and NWA specifically. There is such an attention to the details, the long-standing history of NWA and the deep roots, because I, as a fan of professional wrestling, extend well beyond what we would have seen ever in WWF at the time, WWE now. And I remember picking up Pro Wrestling Illustrated and seeing a scrawny blonde kid, curly hair from, out of Nashville, Tennessee, the son of Jerry Jarrett, and would never have envisioned the career that now anybody who has a computer can find illustrated for them on Wikipedia. When you look back at the trajectory, where you started, being a hometown favorite, a hometown boy, and quite frankly, the son of the promoter, things probably would never have occurred in your head that they would take the routes that they did. And to get there, you had to step on some relationships, build some new ones, reform some old ones. Talk to me just sort of in general about that kind of journey.
I've done a lot of seminars over the last probably 10 years or so, and I tell guys, at the end of the day, and this is not really something I just say on interviews or just to hear myself talk or give you a one-liner. I love the industry more today than when I broke in. And that's saying something as a 18-year-old kid or even a 15-year-old kid selling concession stands. Like all teenagers or early 20-something, you get into the industry and glitz and glamour and a few bucks here and there. It's easy to love it then. But, after 35, 36 years, I've still got an incredible passion for it. And I think the two things that have, and I try to share this, I've got a passion for the industry. And look, it isn't because I love it for the money or the fortune or the fame, so to speak. I love it because of what it is. And also, you got to have perseverance. You are going to, if you stick around long enough, you are going to have some real low points. You're going to be kicked on your ass. You're going to have to get up. And it's, this sounds cliche. It's really not how many times you get knocked down. It's how many times you get up. So you got to have some perseverance. You got to have some passion at the end of the day. But also you got to love it.
I don't want this to take a dour or downer turn, but I would be absolutely remiss in this week specifically to talk to you and not bring up the obvious recent passing of Scott Hall, somebody you have a long and storied personal and professional relationship with. So maybe could you share some favorite memories of Scott?
I'll not to get long-winded. I want to keep this uber focused because I don't want to do my relationship with Scott any disservice, but it goes without saying. Scott meant an incredibly lot to me. I'll put it in my, he was a lot of things over the years: co-worker, colleague, opponent, rival. I could go on and on about all that, but he's a friend, and it is a friend gone too soon, and it's still early in the process. So I'm still giving myself a few more days, but a special human being. And look, all you have to do is go online and look at the accolades and look at the comments just of how talented he was. And a lot of times, and it's refreshing to see people giving him the kudos of his mind for the business. But Scott had just like I referenced, he had a passion for this business that, you get in a car after a match and you've got 200 or 300 miles to drive. You talk wrestling and you talk about not just the war stories and this and that, but you talk about the nuances and how to get better. And Scott always wanted to get better and always wanted others to get better.
Again, like I said, I didn't want it to be a downer moment. I just thought that anyone listening to this would be like, this was crazy not to ask that. But the thing that comes for me when we see any great, pass is that I don't think most people get involved in the world of professional wrestling thinking that they want to have an impact on a lot of people. They just want to do what they love. And as a result of doing what you love, it reaches and touches a lot of people.
Yeah, and Scott certainly did. He absolutely did. And, not just his on-screen character, a machismo and the cool guy and the bad guy and everything that goes with that, but, his teaching moments of the knowledge that he learned, whether it was from Kurt Hennig or you name it, he passed along for sure.
Jeff, I appreciate everything that we've talked about today. I appreciate you taking your time to talk to me, in fact, and I will see you in Nashville this weekend for the Crockett Cup. Any parting words that you want to say for the listeners and or the opponents that you're stepping into the ring between this year?
I'm looking forward to Sunday. Cardona and all of us, you better bring your A game because Double J's bringing his A game. And folks, tune in on Fight this weekend, NWA Crockett Cup. It's going to be one for the ages.
Thank you so much, Double J. Have a great day.
Thanks, my friend. Yeah, have a great day.
That was Jeff Jarrett. You can catch Jeff Jarrett at the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance Crockett Cup, live on Fight TV Saturday and Sunday, March 18th and 19th, emanating live from Nashville. You can watch it in your own home, subscribe at Fight TV, and of course, get your NWA All Access Pass, $49.99 a year, gets you access to all NWA broadcasts, whether it's their weekly NWA Power Surge, Power Trip, or all of their pay-per-views throughout the year. I'm Paul Pratt. You're listening to Wrestling Inc.